All right. Well, I'm going to welcome you one more time. Thank you for joining us tonight for the 100 Radon Test Kit Challenge information session for Greater Sudbury. Joining me tonight are Rebecca MacArthur and Stephanie Lissell. Oh, I should have practiced that, Stephanie, sorry. But really thankful for you both and glad that you could join us. And then we also have Rashid Suleiman from Health Canada. Rashid is going to join me at the end to help me with answering questions. So really thankful for Rashid. He's a great resource and he is the radiation specialist for Ontario and so has some great knowledge of some of the local information. So feel free to test our knowledge of radon tonight, but you can, as I said, feel free to enter those in. I'm going to start with a story. So Bonnie is actually from Wellington, Ontario area, and she joined us last night to share a little bit of her story. She was diagnosed with lung cancer a few years ago, and no smoking history, no understanding of why she would have lung cancer. And her doctor suggested maybe she look at radon. And so she did. And since then, through her journey as she's battling lung cancer, she's also motivated to share with people about it. And so we like to share stories from people that have been impacted by radon because really that's why I'm here. Is to share their stories out to help you with prevention. So one of our key messages is test and reduce now because you can reduce lung cancer. And so that will be, we'll talk about some of the base health impacts of radon, but that is our key message tonight. Now, Take Action on Radon is a national initiative. We work across the country and we are proud to unite members from across Canada, which encompass the traditional territory of many First Nation, Métis people, and Inuit, whose ancestral footsteps and rights extend beyond the colonial boundaries that exist today. We respectfully honor these people's rights and history in relationship with this land. And I am actually coming in from Treaty 1 territory, home of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, and Dene people in Winnipeg. So just down the highway from you. So radon is linked to lung cancer. It is the only known link, but it is the number one cause of lung cancer for people who don't smoke. And it is a significant contributor for those who do smoke. Now, we know this because of research that was done with miners. And so Sudbury did play an important role, and other communities around Ontario and across Canada actually played quite a role in the research that was done early on in Canada. That research was rolled up with other research. So it wasn't just in the mines, but then there was also residential case studies that came out of that where they directly linked the exposure of radon to lung cancer. And recently within the last 10 years, the Health Canada published a paper, Jin Chen, the researcher with Health Canada, published a paper showing that uranium mines are actually safer than our homes. And so the mines have safely dealt with, when it comes to radon at least, that they have dealt with radon and they do measure and control their radon levels. But we are still being exposed in our homes and more people need to, test and mitigate. So it's not just Canada where this research has been done, it's all around the world. And so the World Health Organization and the IARC organization have proclaimed that nations should set a guideline and that there is a concrete connection between radon and lung cancer. So it is a known carcinogen. And the World Health Organization has set guidelines for nations to develop national radon programs. And that's certainly why Health Canada has developed our program here. So I mentioned it's the number one cause of lung cancer for people who don't smoke, but it's also a significant contributor for people who do smoke. And so Health Canada estimates that someone who is exposed to a high level of radon with no smoking history will have, an estimate exposure of well, at 800, it would be 5%, or at 6%, 600 at 4%. But if you correlate that to then somebody who has the combined radon risk and smoking risk, you can see that the risk increases quite significantly. And so at 600 becquerels, it would be about a 20% risk. So now it's nice and easy to see in the table, but the reality with radon is the exposure increases sort of in a linear exposure. So radiation exposure increases your risk risk is increased as your radiation exposure increases. And so that exposure includes both amount and time. And so as we talk about testing, we'll talk about testing in places where you spend time and you're breathing it, because that is the concern with radon, is that the amount that you're breathing in means that there is more risk to your lung tissue and more likelihood of it becoming cancer. So uranium is in our soils. Uranium eventually decays and becomes radon. So uranium is in our soils all across Canada. And anytime that a building is in contact with the ground, it has the potential of having elevated radon. So the uranium decays and eventually becomes radon. Uranium is a solid, so it stays in the ground, but radon is a gas and it moves up out of the ground. So any building that has contact with the ground, the radon can move into. And typically our homes are really nice and airtight. So we're tightening up the sides and the roof, but there's still gaps in the ground. And so that radon is coming up in to our homes. So radon is not just a concern in homes, it can be in schools, workplaces. So really any building is recommended to be tested for radon. And testing is easy. And so we'll talk a little bit about it, and then you'll be able to get a test to get that started as well. So when you test for radon, we recommend that you test using a long-term test. So test during the heating season for a minimum of 3 months or 91 days. We'll often talk about 100 days here just to help kind of give you that wiggle room to make sure you get the minimum 91 days in. But the reason we test for long-term is because the radon levels can change. And so, as I mentioned, radon is a gas, and gases move from high pressure to low pressure. And so the ground that our homes are built on is under a high pressure, and our homes are typically under low pressure. So that air is drawn in, and as I mentioned, it comes in, but it doesn't necessarily go out at the same rate. And so then, but the rate that that gas comes in can change. So things like outdoor environment can change that. So a low pressure system or wind or different change of air pressure, air temperature can impact those pressure differences. So it can mean that either more air is coming in from the soil gas or less air is coming in from the soil gas. So the gases can change. But things can also change inside your home. So the way you use your house can also change the amount of air that's coming in from the soil. So things like using your kitchen vent fan or your bathroom fans can draw air out of your house without replenishing it. It's going to try and draw it in somewhere, and so that is often from the ground. So that could increase the amount of soil gases coming in from the basement. Now, we recommend testing for long term because that will give you an estimate of your annual average. And these are the detectors that you're used. So they're alpha track detectors. They're a one-use detector. They'll come packaged in a little clear package. And so what you're going to do is cut that open, take it out, and it'll be ready to place. So it's basically turned on when you cut open the package. And these detectors are accurate. We'll talk a little bit about our quality protocol in a minute, but we have done testing on these over a number of years, so we do have confidence in them. So when you get your report after testing, you can have confidence that they are accurate. And when you do get that report, you'll have a radon level on it. And that radon level will tell you what the average level is that it was in your house at the time. So it doesn't show the peaks and valleys. It just gives you an average of your exposure. And Health Canada recommends that if your radon level is above 200 becquerels per meter cubed, that you take action to reduce it. And that you do that within 1 year. Now, we do have a national certification program, and we do have a couple certified professionals in your area. So you can go, if you do need to reduce your radon level, you can go to CNRPP and find a certified mitigation professional to help you with reducing. And the most effective way to reduce radon is a radon mitigation system. And this system involves a pipe and a fan. So the pipe is installed in the house in such a way that it goes down through the concrete slab of your home into that subslab space. And so it provides a pathway up and out of the house. And then there's a fan that's installed so that it provides just enough air movement to go up and out. So this is a really simple system, and it's really effective in reducing radon levels to quite low levels, but it does need to be installed properly. And so there's a couple key things to keep in mind. One is that you want to make sure that the foundation is well sealed. So if that foundation is nicely sealed, then the system will work more effectively to draw the air from the full footprint of your building from just one point. And then also it will reduce the size of the fan that it needs to be, because it doesn't need to move as much air, because it's just really effective in drawing the air out and reversing that pressure, so the air sort of chooses to go up and through the pipe system and get discharged out of your house. Now, the other reason why you want a really nicely sealed foundation is because you don't want to draw conditioned air down. So this would, use up nice warm air that you've already put energy into, or also it could risk depressurizing your building even more and backdrafting if you have some gas-fired appliances. So it is important to make sure that it's installed properly. Now, if you do have fans installed, there is also a little monitor on the system to make sure the fan is working. So in my house, I have a mitigation system, and I cannot hear my fan. And so in order to know that it's actually working, I can look at this little YouTube manometer on it, and it's just slightly off center. And so then I know, okay, yeah, it's working and it's moving air. So it changes the pressure in the manometer. If I unplug it and turn it off, then it levels out. So that's what this little YouTube thing is on the pipe here. And then on this system, there's an electronic monitor. So if you don't want to have to look at the YouTube, there could be an electronic one, and then it would sound an alarm when the fan stops working. Now, if you don't have a concrete floor, this can still be established in a crawl space with a membrane. And so the membrane is installed in the space, again, in such a way that it creates that well-sealed environment. So you can see here that it needs to be properly sealed, both mechanically and airtight around the perimeter of the crawl space. And then all openings as well need to be well sealed. Okay, so that's reducing levels in an existing building, but there also is measures in our building code for radon. So in the National Building Code, which was brought in across the province of Ontario in January of this year, the requirements now are a granular layer, so at least a minimum 4 inches of granular layer under the slab of the home. And then on top of that granular layer is a membrane. And so this is a well-sealed membrane, again, that provides that help with that well-sealed foundation. And then on top of that would be the concrete. And then there is this rough-in pipe that gets installed through the floor of the house so that it opens down in that subslab space, but then it comes up above the floor about 12 inches, and it's capped and sealed and labeled. And so that doesn't fix the radon, it doesn't reduce it at all, but it's there in case you need to reduce your radon. So you would still test your home after you move in. So if you're building a new home, the next winter season that you live in the house, make sure you test for radon and then determine if you need to finish the system. And so then you would just extend the pipe up and out like we saw in the other picture, and then have a fan installed to reduce the radon levels. So this is relatively new in across the province. There are regional codes that have been in place in Ontario. And so, there has been different regions that have had different programs over the last couple of years, but this now is what the National Building Code requires and what the province now requires. Okay, and if you do need to eventually reduce your radon levels, there is a national mitigation grant. So the Canadian Lung Association has a Lungs Matter grant, and it's worth $1,500 to help with the cost of reducing your mitigation. So if you have, you can qualify. So you need to have a long-term test, and then you need a quote from a CNRP professional. And then you also need to qualify, and you can do that one of two ways. So either a low income or low to moderate income. So you have to be under the median income for the province, and you can go on their website to find that criteria. Or if there is an occupant with a lung cancer diagnosis, then it is an automatic qualification as well. So you do need to apply before you start the mitigation work, otherwise it will be declined. And another thing in Ontario is the Terrain Home Warranty. And so this program provides coverage for new homes in the first 7 years. So if you have a new home and you test for radon and the radon is above the 200 level, then the terrain warranty will kick in, or the builder will be required to reduce the radon level. So that is covered in the first 7 years of a home. All right, so that is the basics of radon. So feel free to put any questions if I haven't answered them into the chat, and Rashid and I will get to those at the end. But I'm going to now just kind of dig into how to get your kit, and the program is setting it up for the 100 Test Kit Challenge. So we've got 5 easy steps. You're going to go in, pick up your kit. It's going to look like this envelope, brown envelope on your screen. Inside is the instructions and the kit. And then you're going to take it home, set it up, log in. So there is information that we require from you to make sure that you get your report at the end of the program. So each kit has a serial number on it, and we've put that on the envelope. And when you set it up, then there is a QR code or a link that you can go and register your start date on it. And then we'll also need some additional information. Okay, so you've got your kit, you've picked it up, and you went home, and you're going to set it up right away. And so I want you to think about being in your home. If you have a basement, then think about a room in your basement where you spend 4 hours a day or more. So that could be a home office, it could be a bedroom, or a family room, playroom. So if you spend 4 hours a day or more in that space, or somebody in your family does, then that's a great room to place it in. If you don't, maybe your basement is only for storage or laundry, then think about a room on your main floor. And so again, a room where you spend 4 hours a day or more. So a bedroom, a home office, a family room. And then once you pick your room, then think about a location in that room. And so there is instructions on details on the instructions that sort of like label exactly where you need to put it. But it is difficult to find a location that meets all the measurements. So just some key things you want to keep in mind. Put it up off the floor. So you want to put it on a table or a shelf, and keep it at least a meter away from a window. And if you can find a location like that on a table or shelf or a desk in that room that you've chosen, that will be a good location that it will stay for 3 months, then perfect. Then you can set it up, open up that package, put it in place, and leave it there for the 3 months. If you do have children or pets and you're worried that they might get moved, then feel free to put it up a little bit higher. So you can choose a location on a shelf a little bit higher, or you can also hang it from an interior wall or hang it from a ceiling. And so those are all good choices. Again, just think about keeping it up off the floor, away at least a meter away from the window. And then, choose a location where it'll stick around for 3 months. Then after you've set it up, there is a QR code on the envelope, or there's a link that you can go to, or if you're having trouble with it, you can give us a call because our phone number is there too. And then we will get you to record the start date. So there's some required information that we are going to need, and that is your name, your serial number, your contact information, and your address, and then the date that you opened it up in your home. So we're going to need all that information in order to get you a report. And so it'll ask you that and say that this is required information. And then it'll say, do you want to answer more questions? And so you can say yes and give us some more optional information, or you can say no and be done. But if you do want to give us some more information, we're collecting data for research. And so it'll ask you questions such as, age of construction, renovations in the house, different things like that. So you can go ahead and answer the rest of them. But if you don't want to, then you can just say no, and that's it. And then some of you will receive two detectors. And so you'll have two serial numbers on the outside of the envelope, and then you'll have two detectors inside the envelope. And so I mentioned earlier that these detectors are accurate, and we know that because we're doing quality control on them. And so we know the accuracy because we send them to a lab, we expose them to a known level of radon, and we compare it with what the lab analyzes it. But we also do these duplicates. And this is to make sure that there's consistency or precision among the detectors as they're measuring. And so we would ask that if you got two, that you would open them up at the same time and that you would put them side by side. So in that room and in that location, in that room that you chose, just put the detectors right side by side at the same time. And then when you are done at the end of the program, return them at the same time. And then on the survey, when you go to enter your contact information and your start date, then it'll ask you for a second serial number. And so if you have two, then you can put both serial numbers in there. If you just have one detector, then you can skip the second serial number. Okay, so that is all that you need to do once you pick up your detector to get you started, and then you can enjoy the next 100 days. And then there we have a 1 week collection period, and that is the date is written on the envelope, and so during that week we'll get you to put it drop it off all together, and we'll make sure that it gets shipped to the lab. So you have an envelope with the serial number, and then it also says start date and a place for you to write the start date, and end date and a place for you to write the end date. And so we encourage you to record that information on there and keep the envelope. So that is the three pieces of information that you need in order to get the report from us that you probably won't remember. So you'll know your name and your address later, but you won't know the serial number after you drop the detector off, and you will not remember what date you started it or ended it. So you can write those down. So if all technology fails, you have the backup paper copy. So store that in a memory. I think we say in the instructions, put it on your fridge, because that's where we'll say, we told you to put it on your fridge, maybe go check there. But put it in a place where you'll remember, and you'll find it in a couple months when you remember, oh, I haven't got that report yet. But when you drop off the detector at the drop-off location, you just need to drop off the detector. So it doesn't need to go in a bag. It doesn't need to go in an envelope. You can just drop it off loose. Rebecca and Stephanie will have a box at the libraries, and you can just drop it off there. But we will get you to complete an end survey as well. So we would need the end date. So you're going to go log on to the end survey. Again, the links are with the information, and record a couple more questions with the end date. And then we will pay to ship the detectors to the lab, and then the lab will analyze them and get you a report. And so you will get this report by email. So you might want to check 6 to 8 weeks later after you've dropped off your detector and see if you've got an email with the report. If you haven't got it after 8 weeks, then make sure you reach out to us. We will make sure that you get that report. So if you don't, then let us know. Also, because we do find that emails go to spam folders or they just get missed, right? We all get lots of emails these days, and so sometimes we just don't catch them all. So make sure that you reach out to us if you don't get that report. And that is confidential between you and us. And so we don't share that specific information. We generalize it, and then we provide a report to the community. And so we summarize the data all together and do a report on the program. And so here's a couple examples of reports that we've done over the last couple of years. On the report, we summarize the number of homes that have been tested and the percentage that were above the 200. And then the green represent homes that were below 100, yellow are between 1 and 200, and red represents homes that were above 200. And so this will be a community report that we'll publish after the program is complete. So we always want to remind you that because emails are hard to go through these spam folders, please add our email to your safe sender list. So info@takeactiononradon.ca. If you just make sure that you have that in your safe sender list, we will send you reminders about all the steps of this program. So we'll send you another follow-up email after this night to say, okay, you can go pick up your detector. We'll probably send you another couple of emails if you haven't started it to say, oops, you forgot to start. Make sure you start, or maybe you haven't picked it up yet. Make sure you go pick it up. So we'll send you a few email reminders to get things started. If so, we do ask that you use the same email through the whole process. And if you get reminders from us and you've already done it, it may be just that you've switched emails on us and we are kind of going off our list. Um, but we also recommend that you check to make sure you're getting emails from us. Okay, so that's all from my side. So Rebecca and Stephanie, when participants come in to pick up the detectors, do you want to give them some instructions?
Sure. So we've actually contacted directly a number of participants already, the first sort of half that we had the list of last week, and they declared which branches they wanted to pick their kits up. So we have actually expanded the pickup locations from what you see on the screen to include other locations that may be closer to you, because of course Sudbury is quite large. Um, if you haven't been contacted yet, you will be. If you have been contacted, but we left you a message, your kit is currently at the main library. So just give the library a call if you want that sent somewhere else for you, and we can get it in your hands as quickly as possible.
Nice. Perfect. And so then when they go into the library, they can just go to the
Yeah,
circulation desk.
just go to the circulation desks, just ask the staff. And right now, um, the main library has the most amount of kits, so if you're closest to that one, it would be the easiest one. But we have sent out, like I said, if you have been contacted directly and you let us know where you wanted to pick it up, we did send the kits out across the system. So yeah, so just ask the staff. They'll be happy to help.
Perfect. Good. Yes, we love dealing with libraries because their staff are always very efficient. So they're a great location to work with. Okay, and then at the end of the 100 days, when it comes to drop it off, it's even easier because you can pick any library. So just go in
Exactly.
the week of March 7th, 2nd to 6th and drop it off.
Yep, just hand it back to staff at the desk. Tell them it's your take action on radon kit, and the staff will send it to us so that we can send it back on your behalf.
Perfect. And if you do forget to drop it off, or maybe you're away that week, you can mail the detector back to us. So the detectors we're using this year are skinny and they actually can go through the mail. So you can just put on, I think it's about, well, it's just under $3 stamp. So it's just the oversized envelope stamp. The address is on the instructions, so you can mail it back to us. So no worries there, but we'll save you the $3 if you remember and drop it off there. Okay, so Rashid and I are going to go through some questions and go through them. But before we do that, I'm just going to do a couple announcements. So Take Action on Radon is an organization that is here to raise awareness on radon across the country and to do it with partners. And so that's why we love working with communities like Greater Sudbury. But we also have developed a contest so that you can help us too. So the November contest is designed around the idea that you would learn about radon and then you would share what you know with your community, your friends or family. And so you can go to knowvember.ca. So that's KNOWVEMBR.ca. And if you have told somebody about radon, take a picture that represents it, and then you can upload it online and enter our contest. And you can have a chance to win some great prizes. We've got weekly gift cards, so Canadian Tire and $50 Canadian Tire gift cards or Mark's Work Warehouse. So you can enter for those weekly prizes. And then we have grand prizes of stand-up paddleboard, a Fitbit, a KitchenAid, and then some more gift cards. Take time to enter that contest. I think you can enter up to 20 times. And to be honest, you got pretty good odds of winning. So definitely better than the lottery. And also, when you're on the November site, you can go and find the radon game. And this is a fun way to learn about radon in your community. So you can walk around your little community and it will ask you questions and you can level up. So there's 3 different levels and just a fun way to learn about radon. And then it also will give you a bonus entry to the contest. So you can do that as well. All right. Good. So we are going to take some time for questions now, Rashid. Have you seen some coming in?
Oh, there's lots of questions, and thanks for having me. Great presentation.
Yeah, thanks. All right. Okay, I'm going to throw this one at you first, Rashid. Are you ready? This question is, I don't spend 4 hours a day in my basement, but I do sleep there sometimes in the summer. Oh, this is a tricky one. Should I
Mhm.
put the test in the basement now in the colder months?
Mm. Yeah, I get this question a lot too about like, because a lot of people sleep, why not put it in a bedroom? But our recommendation is the lowest lived in area is what we're looking for. Because so if you, it sounds like by what you're saying is that you only spend sometimes in the basement in the summer, sleep there sometimes. So I would probably say the first floor. We want the lowest area that to represent your risk to radon gas.
All
So
right.
yeah, if you're not going into the basement too often, other than that, then just the first floor.
Yeah. All right. Next question is, does a home air exchanger affect radon levels in the home? And should the air exchanger be turned off during the 100-day test? What do you think, Rishi? Do you want
Yeah,
to answer this one too?
yeah, I can, I can. So air exchanger, like maybe heat
And
recovery ventilators and ERVs.
yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
That's what. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. Those do could help reduce radon levels in the home because the HRVs increase ventilation. It introduces like outdoor air into the home, cools, heats. Its effectiveness though is limited, and it, in general, it could range. It depends on a few factors, mainly like how is it maintained. That is very important. If the HRV is not maintained, it doesn't become as effective. So yes, it can reduce radon levels. We can see it actually ranging between 25 to 50% reduction sometimes. But our recommendation is to test your home because we want to know what the level of your home is with you running the HRV as you normally run it, and then you can see what your risk is, or sorry, your radon level is, and then better attribute that to lung cancer risk.
Yeah, perfect. Good. Yeah, and we often get those kind of questions about should I do this while I'm testing or this while I'm testing? And so, as Rashid said, operate your house as you normally do. So that is the air exchanger or windows open or whatever it is that you, however you live in your home, and then test just the way that you live. Okay, there's a question here about cost. So I'll tie this two questions together. What happens if I do have elevated radon? And then the other is the cost of a mitigation system. And so if you do have elevated levels, then as I mentioned, the most effective way to reduce it is a radon mitigation system, but we recommend that you contact a CNRP professional and have them install it. The cost does depend on the type of home or but we did do research in about 2019 to 2020 and saw that the average cost of a radon mitigation system across the country was about $3,000. So it can change depending on the area of Canada. It can change depending on the complexity of a house. So a larger footprint, a crawl space, more complicated architecture or whatever more complicated design of a house can impact the radon or the cost, but typically we saw about $3,000, and that's why the Canadian Lung Association chose 1,500 as their grant because it sort of helped to cut the average cost down in half. All right. Okay, so I think I'm not sure if I'm missing part of this question, but I have elevated levels of radon in my home between 2 and 300 and have read that this could solve the problem. Is this correct? So I think that would
Farther
be,
down, she clarifies that she
oh,
has an air
good.
exchange system.
Thank you. Okay, good. I was like looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Perfect. Thank you. So yeah, if you, it may be like Rashid said, between 20 and 50%, maybe it does bring enough air to reduce your radon levels. We don't normally recommend installing an HRV for the purpose of reducing radon levels. If you already have an HRV installed in the house, then you may want to clean it and balance it, and it may fix your radon levels. But if you need to install something to reduce it, then I would contact a professional and let them decide if, a mitigation system would be more effective or an HRV would be more effective. And you can have that discussion with them about the differences.
just to add to that too, it does require you to be running it too, because
Yeah.
something we found when we did our cross-country survey is that a lot of the newer homes with HRVs, because of their air tightness, have could have higher levels, elevated levels of radon, because it does require you to be maintaining and running the HRV.
Yeah, yeah. So it needs maintenance. And then often if you're using an HRV for the purpose of radon reduction, you end up having to use it all the time. Yeah. So, and we do actually, CNRPP has a paper on HRVs, and really our recommendation is to have a digital monitor so that you're constantly monitoring because the levels can change. All right. Question about I live in a condo, and so is this applicable? So possibly, if you are in a condo and you're in a ground contact, then absolutely you should test. You should inform the condo corporation, and I could do, a presentation, or Rashid could do a presentation for the condo corporation similar to what we're doing now. And I do recommend that if you are in a condo, that you communicate with the condo corporation about radon and get the conversation going during the 3 months before you start to get the results. Because if a condo, or if you're a renter, or it really is up to the owner to make changes to the building. So you do need to get permission, or them involved with mitigation. So it's good to just communicate now before you get the results and let them know that you'll share the results once you have it. But if you're also, we have had upper floors of apartment units test high. So we, don't discourage anybody from testing. It's up to you if you wanted to test. If we were to take a whole building to test, we would focus first on the ground contact level. But if you don't know if the building's tested and you're in an upper floor, then it's up to you. You can certainly test. All right. Rashid, how about this one? I work Monday to Friday in my basement, but don't spend 4 hours a day there on the weekend. Should I still test in the basement?
Well, maybe 4 hours.
Yeah, so they probably spend more than 4 hours a day, Monday to Friday in the basement, but not every day because they don't spend that much time they work from home and don't spend that time in the weekend.
Well, that's a really interesting question. So place there's actually a lot of questions I'm seeing too related on regarding of like time and where best to place um the radon detector. And if you working, I think you are spending more than 4 hours a day. I think it is maybe 8 hours a day, Monday to Friday in the
Yep.
basement. Yeah, and I would say it would totally be reasonable to test the basement, maybe even the workspace there, if it follows all the other criteria too, like not next to electronics or near ventilation system. I don't know if you would agree with that.
Yeah,
Or,
I think so too. I think I would, we talk about testing in the basement because that's the source. And so another question is like, when you always test in the basement because that's the higher level. And so the principle of testing for radon is really we want you to understand what your exposure is. And so sometimes people try and find the radon, so they put it in the crawl space or they put it in the sump pit, and we don't want you to do that. We want you to get a good estimate of what your exposure is. And so, for any of these questions, regardless, sometimes we're like, well, I had a very complicated question actually last week about one person was sleeping in this room and one person was sleeping in this room, but then they sometimes slept in this room. And so it's like, well, you're going to have to sort of pick a room. But the reality is, if you are in a house with forced air, the air is probably being circulated. And so it actually is probably fairly level regardless of where in your house. So Health Canada recommends just one test. And we have done research to place detectors around a house and seen that the levels have been fairly even. And in fact, my house, I have a 4-level split with an with an unfinished basement. And they're relatively even all around. But when I have the heat cranked in the winter, I said I'm in Winnipeg, so I, know the cold temperatures, and I usually close the return air in my basement because I'm trying to heat up my bedrooms upstairs. And actually, that is the lower amount of radon. So it's relatively similar all over, but of all the rooms, that's probably the lowest when I have the heat on. So, but it will be fairly even because of the forced air heat. If your air is, if your heat is radiated, so if you've got baseboard, boiler, in-floor heating where the air is not being moved around, then it will be more leveled. And so you will want to, sort of think, okay, this is where I spend a good chunk of my time. Let's test in the lower level first. But yeah, I answer a lot of those questions of people. I'm standing in my house and I'm looking around my room. Where, where should I put it? All right. I will a couple questions about the dates of the um, pickup. And so that is March 2nd to 6th, which will be on the envelope. So you don't need to worry too much about whether you remember that because you can take a look at the envelope and you'll find that date. So March 2nd to 6th. There is a question about being away in February. So if you're away for a while during the testing season, then I would caution against testing during time when the house is unoccupied. So if somebody's in the home and using it as normal, then it's fine. But if the house is closed up for longer than a few weeks, then I would recommend not testing during that. So either delay and test later or send it back to us a little bit sooner because it can change the radon level. So how many days, it's hard to tell. We've had debates on whether it's 4 weeks or more, but you can kind of calculate the percentage. So if you've got 91 days of testing and you're gone for 4 weeks of it, it's going to impact it by a percentage. So you can kind of do the math and sort of decide for yourself what you think. But we have had times when it had influenced it, where it's increased it significantly more because the house was closed up. All right. Have you seen any other? Oh,
Yeah,
Rashid.
there's one I want to
Yeah,
tackle with, are there any other health risks
yeah.
beyond lung cancer? Yeah, and then some people were asking about if they know if they have high levels in the basement, if they can use the basement. So something that I just want to address there is, yeah, Health Canada, as Pam was mentioning in the presentation, it's the health risk it's linked to lung cancer. There's no other known other health risks. And just it is a natural radioactive gas. It's in the air we breathe. It's naturally occurring. It's actually our largest source of natural radiation. It's outside between levels of 5, 15 becquerels, just in our natural environment. The issue is that when it's in the house, it can uh, be at higher levels than and cause a risk to lung cancer in the long term. So if you do have higher levels in your basement, we Health Canada recommends trying to mitigate if it's over 200 becquerels per meter cube, mitigating within a year. It's a long-term health effect, so there's no immediate rush to get it addressed right away. You can still use, if you're comfortable, still use the basement as normal. But yeah, we recommend fixing within a year.
Yeah. And if you have I'm not sure you answered the question about any other health risks other than lung cancer.
Oh, no other health risks
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
known.
So only known as lung cancer. Good. One question, Rebecca, for you about ID. Can they send somebody else other than themselves if they're the one on the list, and do they need ID?
They sure can. So if they're going to send their spouse, just the spouse will need to know which name it was registered under. And someone may ask, what's the name it's under, and maybe like, what's the phone number or whatever. That's the only information that the staff have. So yeah, but you don't need a library card in order to pick up your kit. If you want to get a library card, we would love that, but it's not a requirement. Um, And yeah,
All right.
trying
And
to
then
make it as easy as possible.
yeah, exactly. So there are a couple people asking about they haven't got an email yet, so they're not sure if they're on the wait list or if they're registered. So you should have got an email from that info@takeactiononradon.ca, and I'm going to put that email into the chat so that you can check it out. And either way, if you're on the wait list, we did send, I believe we sent an email for the wait list. If you're on the registered list, then you would have gotten that. And then we will send an email again after this presentation. So if you didn't see one before, you could check again tomorrow, and it'll tell you if you're on the registered list or on the wait list. And if you are registered, then you can go in right away and pick up the kit. If you're on the wait list, or if you know somebody else who wants, so there's questions about is there kits for anybody else that maybe didn't get a chance to register? So if there are kits left over, then we'll email you and say, okay, there's still kits available. And they're first come, first serve. So we'll let the list know that they can go in and pick them up. And then if there's leftover after that, then you can let anyone know and we'll make sure they all get snapped up.
And so as of today, we were waitlisting people again. I'm not sure if we've exhausted that wait list yet, but
Yeah, I don't think we had when we started the session. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, if you can still sign up for the wait list, then you can do that. And then we will let you know as soon as, if there are kits left over.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so we will be reaching out to the next batch of people, probably starting tomorrow.
Yeah. All right. Oh, a good question. So I get this one often about radon is heavier than air, and so it collects in the lowest spot. But so it is atomically heavier than air, but it doesn't sink. So it seems to get distributed. So we've actually done tests also in a room. So we put 20 detectors in one room, and we did this in at least 20 houses, and we put them all over the room. So we put them on the floor, we put them up a little bit, we put them way up high, we hid them in drawers. We tried to test to see what can we do to impact the radon level. And we found that in all of the situations, the levels were even. They did not differ much. So less than the error rate of the detector, the margin of error for the detector. So we don't recommend putting them in drawers because it just happened the drawers that we used were leaky, so they were lots of airflow. But and we don't recommend putting them on the floor. That was one that we found. We got some odd readings for detectors when they were put on the floor. And we don't recommend putting too close to the window because windows can be leaky, and so there could be a different airflow from them. But yeah, it doesn't sink. It just seems to get circulated, just like that, your air is circulated. So okay, Rashid, there's two housing units in my house. One is an in-law suite, and both are above a crawl space. The in-law suite has more exposure to the crawl space because there's no concrete slab. Where would you put your test? In the in-law suite or in the other space?
Sweet or the other does it matter how much you love your in-laws?
Right. Yeah. I would say
Um,
it definitely always a good choice to look after the family.
yeah, always, I would too. Um, so it is the again, just going back to the lowest lived in area. We are trying to get a representation of the area we're breathing every day to know the risk. If there's like a common room, so because like they're completely separate, so we're thinking that there are different airflows in both rooms and there's two different living situations. I might even consider two tests, honestly, um, if possible, maybe in the future, if it's different. But for this purpose, you're only able to do one. So um, my guess would probably be testing a common space if possible.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say
Yeah.
go with your gut. Like Rashid said, follow the guidance, but if you've got an instinct that one place is a place that's you're occupied more, then go with that.
It's okay also to place in space you think, the in-laws place, you said it was more related, connected to the crawl
To
space,
the
which
crawl
is fine if
space.
it's,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I did see a question about area, if like Sudbury
Okay.
area asking.
Yeah.
Sudbury area, I remember in 2012 when we did the cross-country survey, it came up to about 10 point something, 10% of homes tested for high levels of over 200 becquerels per meter cubed. However, so 10% of homes. It was not as large, that large survey, and it was a Sudbury Health District, so I can't tell you specific areas in Sudbury where the test was conducted. But we generally, although those numbers do help us with policy and learning about certain areas, soil characteristics, types of housing in the area, there's a lot of variables such as like soil characteristics, types of housing that can really affect radon levels. So we do recommend everybody to test. So even if we say 10% of homes tested for high levels of radon in Sudbury, it shouldn't be an indication for you not to test. Every house is different, and it's important. Like your neighbors can test high, and then you can test low, living on the same streets.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Good. Question about why is testing done in the heating season? Do you want to tackle that one too, Rashid?
So radon being a long-term health effect, leading to lung cancer. Over, of course, Pam was saying in the presentation, your exposure over the course of a lifetime will increase your risk to lung cancer. So Health Canada recommends a 1-year test, actually, because we want to see your yearly exposure to radon gas in your home. So for the shortest amount of time that we can do to help us get a long-term average would be 3 months during the heating season. And this is because, or 91 days, sorry, during the heating season. Your windows are typically closed and heat is turned on, so the heat, the hot air rises. The radon levels are typically higher during the season compared to summer when you might have different occupancy behaviors such as opening the windows, maybe not even home as much of the time. So we do want to try, if we're doing the shortest amount of time, 91 days, we want to do it during the heating season.
Perfect. Good. Okay. And another question, do electronics, computers, speakers, TV affect the reading? Our reader is sitting on a speaker. So in the old guidance, there was recommendation to keep it away from electronics. And so depending on the detectors, there was some interference with some electronics, some older electronics. I haven't found most electronics interfere with any of the detectors now. But the one thing, so the passive detectors we're using for this, I wouldn't put it on a stone fireplace. But otherwise, or heat, I guess. I wouldn't put it on a place that's like on a fireplace that was hot. I would keep it a little distance from like a wood stove or something. But you might want to choose not to put it next to electronics, but it actually, like, we haven't seen that it's had any impact. However, we have been doing research on the electronic radon monitors. And so you can go on to the CNRPP website if you are looking at purchasing a electronic monitor and find a list of a consumer report of digital monitors. So there are some we do recommend, there are some we don't recommend. So you might want to go on there and check it out to see if the one that you're using is on there. Or if you're thinking of purchasing one yourself, then you might want to check that out. But there is interference, and this we've asked the manufacturers to put into their instructions, but they have not yet, with plugging a cell phone in beside your detector. So if you've got an electronic monitor next to a cell phone, when it's plugged in, we have seen interference then, or next to a Wi-Fi router. So there does seem to be some interference there. So I would keep it away. It really doesn't, half a meter is enough. But that's the only concern that I have with electronics. And we haven't published research on that. So, and we haven't got the manufacturers too. So we need more clearance, more guidance on that.
That's really interesting though. Because we bought, so the library does have
Yeah.
currently a fleet of 14 radon detectors that I'm pretty sure we bought from you.
Mm.
And so they are the electronic ones, and they are pretty popular. But for those of you who maybe want an extra test at some point. There is a bit of a wait list right now, but we do have them, and you can add yourself to the wait list. Um, and you'll eventually get them. Now, the library lends them for 3 weeks, which is definitely short of 91 days. But it's meant to just kind of give you an example, kind of open the conversation at your house and things like that. So we are by no means offering these kits so that you can, keep them for 3 months and then have to worry about mitigation. This is just it's just a little taster, and you can check it out as many times as you want once they're available.
Yeah. 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 You can register, get in the queue, and then you
Hmm.
can see what they are. Yeah, that's great. Okay, another question about there's two actually questions about high levels. So one is if my house tested high for radon and I decide to get a mitigation system installed, then how do I go get about getting rechecked the radon levels? And so if you use a CNRP professional, then it's their responsibility to do a short-term test after the mitigation is installed. So that would be just a confirmation to make sure it's effective. But then you also need to make sure that you test again using a long-term during the next heating season. And so they can help you with this, but it really is up to because of the delay of time and, the 3 months, it really is up to the homeowner to make sure that that long-term follow-up test is done. So, yeah, you should test. And again, as Rebecca said, there are monitors at the library, so you could borrow those. You can talk with the mitigation professional to see about including that in the cost of mitigation, or you can buy detectors. So for any of you who are on the wait list and you don't get a detector, you can go and purchase them. So we do have a list of detectors on the Take Action on Radon website or providers that you can go and find. That of ones that we recommend. So you can go and purchase a one-use test or an electronic monitor. And then there was another question about if I have high levels, should I limit the amount of exercise that I'm doing in that room where the high levels are? This is usually, what do you think, Rashid? You want to answer that one?
Sorry, I was getting the link for this for the locations. Can you repeat
Yeah, so the
that?
if you have high levels in your basement, should you limit amount of exercise that you're doing there?
Oh, yeah, I tried to answer that question earlier actually about knowing if you had high levels in your basement. If you already conducted a test and had high levels, and our recommendation, depending on the level, um, if it's over 200, we recommend to mitigate and contact the CNRP professional right away and try to mitigate within a year. It is a long-term health effect. So you can continue your activity as normal. But of course, it's your health, and you would want to, knowing, talking to your doctor or whatever your risk is, family history to lung cancer, you can make a decision. But it's something that we hope you can address in a year, if possible.
Yep, perfect. Sounds good. So we have um, there's another question about do you have stats for levels in Garson, Falcon Bridge, which are current mining areas? And then there was another question. I know, Rashid, you sort of talked about do we have stats for Sudbury? But the other question is do we have stats like showing which areas of Sudbury, have high levels? Now, we have been doing this program across the country, and we do look at this. So we will summarize the information and provide a report. We do look at a map ourselves to make sure that if there's any concerns that we have, we produce a report and communicate. But what we found in almost all of our communities is that it's not in just pocket areas. So it's generally distributed throughout the community. We see high levels. Um, next to a home that's low levels, that's moderate levels. So like it can be all on one street. There could be a high, medium, low house side by side. So we do, as Rashid said, recommend all homes are tested for radon. But we do a report and we will provide it to Rebecca and Stephanie, but we also will invite the municipal staff so we can do a report to the city as well if there is levels. All right, so we are at the hour, so we are going to wrap things up. And thank you all for joining us tonight. And so thank you to Rebecca and Stephanie. Really appreciate you bringing this program to your community. It's free. We give all you the resources, but it does take a lot of time. So we do really want to acknowledge that we appreciate you helping us communicate and sort the kits and distribute them. So thank you both and I'm sure there's others of your staff that are helping as well. So make sure you pass on our appreciation. Thank them as
We
well.
will. It's been our pleasure. I think, and Stephanie will agree with me too. I mean, we sort of stumbled upon this program last year and wanted to join, but it was too late. So yeah, we're happy that Greater Sudbury is going to be a part of it this year. I know you said it's a national program, and it's just something else that we are participating in that we're happy to see what it looks like.
Yeah, that's great. And Rashid, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was great to answer all these questions. So really appreciate your expertise and also really appreciate the opportunity to have somebody local. So Rashid is your local radiation specialist, and so he's a good resource to reach out to. Michael, I see your post, and I'm intrigued by it. So I will reach out to you separate and connect you with both Rashid and and Rashid's put his email in the chat so you can check in with him. But we really appreciate all of you who are working together, joining us to help reduce radon and lung cancer risk. Really, it takes us all to do that. And so we really are thankful that you have joined us in this program and that you're going to be testing and reducing your radon levels. And thanks for joining us tonight. All right, have a good night. Take care.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.